In this unique prison with hundreds of levels, people can eat only once a day, but everyone has to eat from the same table that comes down with the banquet and stops for a while on each level. With this, a guy who entered there on purpose will face the difficulties of several different levels, learning that the selfishness of the human being depends on their position. At the beginning of the film, we see a well-dressed man checking out an industrial kitchen. He passes by several cooks who prepare various types of food. The man checks out everyone's work. The protagonist named Goreng wakes up on a bed in a rectangular room. On the other side of the room is another older guy named Trimagasi, who explains that they are on level 48 of the well as depicted on the wall. Goreng must be wondering what they are going to eat, and the guy himself replies that it will be the leftovers from the people above, that is from level 47. Goreng notices that there are two rectangular holes in the middle of the room, one on the floor and one on the ceiling. From the holes, he sees that there are several identical floors both up and down. After this, he tries to shake Trimagasi's hand, but the guy tells him to stay on his own side of the room. Goreng then asks what the well consists of, and Trimagasi replies that it is obvious that it consists of eating. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes easier, it depends on the level, but luckily 48 is a good level. When Goreng tries to talk to the people on the bottom level, Trimagasi tells him not to because they are below, and also says that the people above won't answer if he calls because they are above. Finally, he explains that they will stay at this level for a month. Suddenly a red light on the wall goes out while the green one lights up, and from the floor above, a floating rectangular platform begins to descend that fits into the hole in the floor like a table. The platform is full of food scraps, and Trimagasi wastes no time eating everything he can. Goreng is afraid because if there are two people on each level, and this is 48, it means that these are the leftovers from the meals of 94 people. Trimagasi says that soon there will be fewer people up there, and at this point, he finds a bottle of wine and is happy because it's very rare for alcohol to arrive on this level. Finally, Goreng takes just one apple that was intact and says he will save it for later. After the platform comes down, the place starts to heat up, and Trimagasi says that it's going to get even hotter because of Goreng. They can only eat while the platform is on the level, so if someone tries to save something, the place heats up until they bake or cools down until they freeze, so Goreng throws the apple through the hole. After a while, Goreng tells Trimagasi that he went into the pit because he wanted to quit smoking and also wanted to read Don Quixote, so he would stay there for 6 months and get a certificate. Trimagasi finds it strange that he went in willingly and also says that he should get 2 certificates since he will have to stay there for a year. Suddenly the lighting turns red, and Trimagasi tells Goreng to move away from the hole. Then the platform comes back up at an insane speed. The next day, Trimagasi continues to eat fiercely, and Goreng still hasn't eaten. Trimagasi then says that he doesn't deserve to be at this level. Goreng asks why Trimagasi is there, and finally, he tells him that one day at home, he saw an ad for a knife sharpener called Samurai Max. The advertisement said that this grinder could grind any kind of knife and that they were so sharp that they could cut even bricks. Housewives also appeared in the ad, saying how this grinder changed their lives because before they couldn't peel tomatoes, and their bread crumbled when they cut it. Actually, Trimagasi didn't need this grinder. He doesn't peel tomatoes, and the bread comes already cut. And after all, who needs to cut a brick with a kitchen knife? But with the ad, he started to wonder if his life was not less happy because he didn't sharpen his knives or because he didn't pay attention to these small details of life. So he ended up buying the grinder. After a while, he saw another ad from the same guy with the same housewives, but this time they were selling a knife that would not go blunt, even after cutting a brick because that knife sharpened itself during the very act of cutting. This knife was called the Samurai Plus. In a rage, he took the television and threw it out of the window, but it fell on the head of someone riding by on a bicycle. As a result, Trimagasi had to choose between a psychiatric ward or the platform. He chose the platform, even though he did not know that there might be a certificate. After this story, Goreng asks how many floors there are in the platform, and Trimagasi says that he doesn't know, but that he has already been on level 132, and that there were still more levels down. At level 132, there was no food left. Goreng finds it strange that he has survived 30 days without eating, but Trimagasi says that he didn't say he didn't eat, he only said that no food was arriving. Startled by this information, Goreng starts calling the people above to try to convince them to ration the food, and to pass this message to the levels above so that everyone can eat even at the lower levels. But Trimagasi says that no one at the top will listen to a communist idea, so he tries to call the guys below to try to pass the information from there, but the guys just complain that Trimagasi didn't leave any wine for them. He then urinates on them and curses them. Goreng says that one day they might be upstairs, and he replies that they will do the same thing. Goreng tells him that he chose a book as an object to take to the platform, and Trimagasi obviously chose the Samurai Plus. The next day Goreng finally eats a little. Then while he is reading, a person falls from the floors above. Trimagasi explains that on the higher levels, you can eat as much as you want, but there is no more to wait for, and there is a lot to think about. He also says that Goreng should pray to stay on the intermediate levels because he seems to be the type who would jump if he were on the higher levels and wouldn't have the courage if he were on the lower levels. Goreng then asks what levels Trimagasi has already been to, and he replies that he started at 72. Then he was at 26, 78, 43, 11, 79, 32, 8, and the month before that he was at 132. Goreng adds the facts that Trimagasi has a knife that sticks by itself, and that he has been on a floor that doesn't get enough food, so he concludes that the guy killed his partner the month before to get food. The conversation is interrupted when the platform comes down, and this time there is a woman on top of the food. Trimagasi feeds himself anyway and tells Goreng to ignore the girl, calling her Miharu. He says that she comes down every month to look for her son, but the first thing she does is kill her companion, and it's possible that the person who fell before was thrown by her. Trimagasi also tells us that he didn't kill anyone on level 132. That was only his companion's last level. On the 8th day of the month, someone threw himself down when the platform was still at their level, so they ate meat but didn't kill anyone. When the platform reaches the floor below, they see the guys taking Miharu off the table, apparently with bad intentions. Goreng gets scared and wants to help her somehow, but soon he hears the guys shouting, and Miharu goes back to the platform alone. The days go by, and Goreng and Trimagasi seem to be getting along well. On the last day of the month, Trimagasi tells Goreng to pray for them because he can already smell the gas that will make them sleep to be placed on another level. The next day, Goreng wakes up and realizes that he is tied up in bed. He struggles, and we see Trimagasi approaching, telling him that Goreng is a heavy sleeper. He shows that they are now at level 171. Trimagasi says that Goreng is younger, and although he is a good guy, he would look at Trimagasi differently after a few days of starvation. He also states that he won't kill Goreng because then the meat would rot, and he also won't start cutting the guy up right away because he can endure at least a week of fasting. Trimagasi compares Goreng to a snail that needs to be purged for 7 days to make the French dish escargot. They hear cries from people on other levels, and Trimagasi tells that these are the cries of those who find out which level they woke up on. Another person passes by, falling through the floor. A little later, the platform comes down with nothing left, just the plates and silverware. Trimagasi tries to reassure Goreng, saying that he will try to treat his wounds and even share some of the meat with him. The guy justifies himself by saying that it's the fault of the people on the floors above who didn't leave anything for the lower floors. Time goes by, and they continue without any food. Goreng continues tied up until one day, Trimagasi says that it's time because he's getting confused in his thoughts from being so hungry. He starts to cut Goreng's leg, and he screams in pain until luckily Miharu arrives on the platform. She sees the scene and saves Goreng immediately, knocking Trimagasi down and making a cut near his throat. She then releases Goreng and passes the knife to him, who finishes eliminating the guy. Some time later, he wakes up with his leg bandaged and sees Miharu feeding on Trimagasi. She shares the meat with Goreng, but he has trouble eating. He asks about her son, but she doesn't answer, and soon she is back down on the platform. At this point, the guy from the beginning of the film is shown again, this time with a plate of dessert in his hand while the cooks are all lined up. He seems to be looking for some culprit and then takes a strand of hair from the dessert and starts to compare it to some of the cook's hair. Back in the present, after a few days, the end of the month arrives, and Goreng begins to have hallucinations of Trimagasi, saying that Goreng is also a murderer, but that Trimagasi is more civilized. The next day, Goreng wakes up with a dog and a woman on level 33. The woman introduces herself as Imogiri, and she already knows Goreng as she was the one who did the interview with him when he decided to enter the platform. Goreng says that it is not a good idea to bring the dog to this place. Imogiri says that he was the first person who asked to bring a book. Most people ask to bring some kind of weapon. Goreng asks how many people she has already sent to this place before they sent her. Imogiri answers that just like Goreng, she also came of her own free will. He asks if she is aware that people die in the platform, and she says that they prefer to call it the Vertical Self-Management Center and tells him that the place has 200 levels. Goreng says that there isn't enough food for all this, but she says that there would be if everyone ate only what was necessary. Imogiri also says that the goal of this place is to generate spontaneous solidarity, but Goreng says that this kind of change does not occur spontaneously. When the platform arrives, Imogiri prepares 2 meals on a couple of plates and gives the dog some food. Goreng says that feeding the dog could end up killing someone, and she says that this is her portion and that she will alternate the food days between her and the dog. Goreng says that a child could die from this, so she says that no one under the age of 16 enters this place. When the platform reaches the floor below, she tries to talk to the people there, explaining that she separated 2 portions so that each one can eat his own portion and prepare 2 equal portions for the people below, but the guys don't listen to her. The next day, she tries again but still can't make them listen. She spends several days trying to do this without success. After 15 days, Goreng gets tired of this litany and threatens the guys, saying that if they don't do what she tells them, he will defecate in their food and smear it all over it, finally convincing them to follow her instructions, showing that in this case, aggression was more useful than solidarity. Even so, she intends to take the next step by convincing those above, but Goreng says that this will not be possible because he has nothing to threaten those above with. The next day, the platform comes down with Miharu lying apparently injured. They put her on a bed. Meanwhile, the dog takes the opportunity to eat. Goreng and Imogiri try to help Miharu, and suddenly the place begins to cool down. It is at this moment that Goreng realizes that the dog still has a piece of meat. He takes the meat and throws it back. Later, Goreng wakes up to a fight between Imogiri and Miharu. He stops the fight and sees that the problem is that Miharu killed the dog. After she leaves, Goreng says that she must have done it for her son, but Imogiri says that she arrived alone at the platform and that she has no relatives. The object she had chosen was a ukulele, and she was a movie actress. Apparently, she is just crazy, looking for a child that doesn't exist. At this point, Imogiri says that she doesn't know what the situation was like at the platform during all the time she had been sending people there. She also says that she has been fighting cancer for 3 years and has recently found out that the battle is lost, so she went into the platform to try to help someone. Days go by, and the end of the month comes. This time, they are taken to level 202. Goreng wakes up and sees that the woman has self-destructed. He also realizes that there are more floors down. Goreng hallucinates again, now of Trimagasi and Imogiri, talking about him eating the meat. He is very tormented by this but can't shake off the visions until, after a while, he seems better and arrives on the platform with only the plates and cutlery. Goreng takes a piece of glass and starts scratching the wall to mark time and ends up eating pages from the book. Trimagasi appears again after a few days, offering him the knife to cut Imogiri's meat. He is already so crazy that he accepts the illusion's gift. The month finally ends, and this time he wakes up at level 6. He sees that on the other side is Miharu, who gets up with a knife and goes after him. But it was only an illusion. The level is really level 6, but who is with him is another guy named Baharat, who is very agitated and happy to have woken up at this level. Baharat's object is a rope, and after shouting a little, a couple from the floor above talk to him. Baharat says he needs help to get out of this place, and the couple tells him to throw the rope. They hold the rope for him to climb up, and when he is about to reach the top floor, the woman defecates in his face, making him fall and almost plummet for good. Luckily, Goreng holds him before he falls any further, but the rope is gone. Baharat begins to cry because he will never get that close to the exit. When the platform arrives, there is still plenty of food, but when it gets to the floor below, Goreng sees that the guys have no scruples. They climb up on the table and eat desperately as if there is no tomorrow. Later, Goreng continues to have hallucinations of Trimagasi and Imogiri. Suddenly, he has an idea and asks Baharat for help. The plan is to improvise some weapons and go down with the platform to divide the food equally among the people and ensure that it reaches the lowest level. When he was on 202, Goreng counted the seconds it takes for the platform to go back up, and he believes the total is about 250 levels. After going down, the plan would be to climb back up on top of the platform. The next day, they arm themselves with pieces of rods from the beds. The couple on level 5 doubt them. When they reach level 7, Baharat threatens the guys and says he will hand over their portion, but Goreng changes his mind. Since the higher levels eat every day, it is better to start splitting from level 51. One of the guys from this level recognizes Baharat for having helped him move up the previous month, but he does not obey their instructions and tries to eat, but Baharat hits him with his rod. They keep going down and preventing people from eating. Baharat is the most agitated and threatens them all until they reach a level where an older guy scolds them both for stepping on the food. Baharat recognizes him and says that he is a wise man. The man asks what they are doing, and Baharat explains. The man thinks the idea is good but says that education comes first, and that they should try to have a dialogue before attacking. The guy also says that this might not do any good if the level 0 employees don't receive a message to take back to the administration. He suggests that they protect a dish so that it comes back intact when the platform goes up, indicating the panna cotta that is an Italian dessert. Following the wise man's advice, Baharat speaks politely on the next floor, asking for help, but it doesn't work, and they end up getting violent again for the next levels until they reach level 51, where they start sharing the portions with people. Everything goes well, but some people end up asking for more, but they stick to the plan. On level 96, they meet a sick guy and a handicapped boy. The boy says that the sick guy is going to die anyway because he is going to suffocate the guy with a pillow and then open him up to eat what they gave him. Then they get to a level where there is only one guy down, which is probably where Miharu woke up, and this time the platform didn't stop. They pass through another level with 2 fallen people, and the platform continues without stopping, which means that it only stops where there is still someone alive, which means that there must be more levels than Goreng calculated. At the next level, they see a guy attacking a woman using a knife. Apparently, it's Miharu. Goreng immediately goes after the guy while Baharat attacks the other man on this floor, but this other man has a sword and manages to cut Bharat's belly, yet Bharat is able to fight back and take the guy's sword. Goreng, in turn, is being suffocated by his opponent, but Bharat uses his sword to defeat him, saving Goreng's life. Unfortunately, Mihuru also dies, so they move on to the next level, and Bharat takes the sword. After level 250, the platform still goes straight on. In the levels, several creepy images are shown. After a while, they don't have any food left, they only have the panna cotta, which they promptly keep because it is the message. On level 333, the platform stops. They look around and see a boy under a bed. Goreng gets off the platform, but he is very weak and wounded and falls to the ground. Bharat also gets off, but then the platform continues, and they can't get back on it. Goreng tells him to throw the panna cotta, but Bharat hesitates. Then they realize that the place hasn't even warmed up yet. The child approaches them. Bharat thinks he is hungry. Goreng tells him to give the child the panna cotta, but he hesitates as well, as the panna cotta is the message. Finally, they give the child the dessert. In a dream, Goreng is still reading Don Quixote, and Trimagasi is listening and commenting that he has wasted the abundance of level 6. In the dream, Imogiri also comments that the dog was the message. Then he wakes up with Bharat saying that the child is the message, but this was also a dream, and Goreng finally wakes up realizing that Bharat is dead. The next day, Goreng puts the child on the platform with him, and the platform goes down into a much lower dark place. When he finally reaches the ground, he sees Trimagasi again, saying that his journey is over, but Goreng says that he has to go up with the child. Trimagasi says that he is not the message, and he replies that he is the messenger, so Trimagasi says that a message doesn't need a messenger. At this point, Goreng gets off the platform and walks away with Trimagasi. They then watch the platform leave, and the movie ends with the two of them saying that the child is the message as the platform goes up at high speed. Your support means everything to me. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content like this.